What's up YouTube? So as you can tell from the title of the video, I'm here today to answer a question that I myself had and wanted to share my experience upgrading to a new phone and hopefully help those pondering the same question, which was, is the upgrade worth it? Now, I'm not going to go too in depth into the different specs, but rather I'll be giving my overall impressions from switching from the Galaxy S10 to the S21 Ultra after 2 weeks. I'll post the different specs to the side of the video. As for what kind of user I am, I wouldn't say I'm your average user, nor am I the biggest tech enthusiast, but more so somewhere in between. Jumping straight into the first noticeable difference is of course the size. As someone with small hands, the Galaxy S10 felt perfect for me. With how big the S21 Ultra is, it can definitely be difficult for me to make certain touches with one hand. So although I like the size of the S10 better, I can get used to most phone sizes. At the cost of comfortability for me with small hands, the S21 Ultra's bigger screen did provide for some added benefits through media consumption and gaming, which leads me into the next topic, the display. Both phones rock a staggeringly beautiful AMOLED display, with the obvious difference being that the S21 Ultra's display has a 120Hz screen. As a gamer, I could immediately tell the difference in how snappy the display was even without putting the phones side by side. So, is the 120Hz display enough of a reason to upgrade? Well, for me, I could have switched back to a 60Hz display easily if I needed to. It's not really a big deal breaker for me, just as long as the screen is beautiful, which the S10's display is. Just the screen by itself is not enough reason to completely upgrade, but let's look at the other upgrades before making a decision. Now, obviously the S21 Ultra has the base S10 beat in all categories on paper, but how much of a difference am I seeing in real life everyday use? I'll just quickly hit all the different categories such as speed, battery, sound, media consumption, gaming performance, and finally, camera performance. First is speed. Both phones, brand new, were extremely quick and snappy. Even after 2 years, my Galaxy S10 is still fast enough and surely usable for another few years, with the only visual difference being the 60Hz display. I can't say the same for the battery though, but I do want to preface this by saying I'm comparing a base model flagship with the most expensive flagship, so it's not a totally fair comparison. Now, I'm sure the S10's battery was okay when I first got it, but after gaming on it intensively for 2 years, I often find myself charging it to 2 to 3 times a day now. With the S21 Ultra, right now it's lasting me an entire day with moderate media consumption and gaming. I love it. We'll see how it performs a year from now. As for sound and media consumption, I would say the improvements were very small. I loved how my S10 sounded, and I was really hoping for bigger changes to the S21 Ultra, however the changes weren't very apparent for me. So I'm going to say that both speakers are going to provide you virtually the same experience for most people, although I can hear a slight difference at the max volume on the S21 Ultra. Along with this, I can say my experience with watching YouTube and movies on the S21 Ultra hasn't changed besides the bigger display, which is nice. I enjoyed the S10's display, so it was no mystery that I would enjoy the S21 Ultra's display as well. I will mention that it was sad to see the headphone jack leave the S21 Ultra, but most of my earbuds and headphones are Bluetooth now, so it didn't impact me that much. Now, how do all these factors combine together to affect my gaming experience? I've played countless of games over the years on my Galaxy S10. I played gacha games, MOBA games, anything you can think of. I did try running Genshin Impact on it, but to no surprise, it did not run pleasantly smooth as I had hoped. But for most other games, they ran perfectly fine on my S10 with no lag. I haven't tested too many games on the S21 Ultra yet, but so far, everything I've played on it has been buttery smooth with zero lag. Overall, not a huge game changer as far as my gaming experience goes, as I play mainly gacha games. And last but not least is the camera. How did I feel about taking pictures while jumping from the S10 to the S21 Ultra? I've got to say, as someone who does photography for a hobby, I didn't notice much difference between the two camera systems. I felt like the jump from the S8 to the S10 felt greater. I was already content with the quality of images coming from my Galaxy S10. The S21 Ultra's camera system produced similar quality images to that of the S10, but with small improvements in the sharpness and the low light performance. Definitely not worth buying an entirely new phone in my opinion. Now, in conclusion, would I recommend upgrading to an S21 Ultra if you currently have a phone in the S10 series? The answer? Well, it depends. If you stayed all the way to this point of the video, then you probably made the distinction that the upgrades in comparison have been very incremental despite the S21 Ultra being 2 generations newer. As of the making of this video, you can get a 128 to 256GB S21 Ultra for roughly $600 to $900 respectively. Now, if you're on a budget or spending that amount of money will put you in a rough spot, then I recommend holding onto your S10 because in my opinion, the incremental upgrades aren't worth that much money. If I was on a budget, then I would have maybe spent $50 to get a new battery from an S10 and be perfectly content with it for another 2 years. Now, if you're someone like me who is fortunate enough to be able to spend that much money on incremental upgrades, then I would for sure recommend it. The way I look at this situation is, you'll likely use your phone for several hours every single day for up to a few years, let's say. Then in my mind, if you're going to spend good money on something, then you should spend money on something that you think you'll use very often for the best value. As someone who games a lot and is always fascinated by new technology, I'll likely use this phone for another 2 or 3 years before upgrading to a new one. So for me, the upgrade was definitely worth it, though there is easily a world where I would have kept my S10 for another year or two. Hopefully my story has helped in your decision. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you own an S10 series phone and whether or not you plan on keeping yours or upgrading it in the future. Thanks again for watching guys, I'll see you in the next one.